Have you ever felt like you don't have a permission for a mistake? Like it's practically better to hide what you did instead of sharing it with your boss. Or maybe your ideas are always turned down by the team, so at some point you decided to stop suggesting altogether. We often struggle to describe this feeling into words, but we always feel when it's there. It is a feeling of unsafe environment. It's a fear of negative consequences if you express your ideas, speak up, or make mistakes. And yes, it's not like that in every team. On the other hand, people sometimes call a normal working disagreement as unsafe environments. Today I will explain what is considered safe and unsafe environments, how can you create psychological safety in your team, and in which cases it's actually not that necessary. Let's go. I record this video on 4th of November, and today we expect a final episode of Attack on Titan. That's why I wear my favorite Attack on Titan t-shirts. If you've never heard about it, lovely anime. Romantic, sweet, must watch. Now, what is psychological safety? Imagine this. You made a mistake at work and your boss is yelling at you. You did it not on purpose and now you're feeling uncomfortable, maybe intimidated, and if it's in front of your team, even embarrassed. And if you're from the culture where you shouldn't argue with your boss, you have to tolerate this silently. Will you, going through that, help you not make this mistake again? Maybe, but I think that the chances are not that high. Because yelling at your employees only helps manager to spill the negative emotions on someone. He cannot process these emotions more constructively. So basically, he's making himself feel better at your expense. Environment under a manager like that cannot be considered as psychologically safe. We are quite good at what is called self-protection, we people. So when we sense that the environment is not safe, we adapt. We don't ask for anything, don't suggest, don't admit mistakes, don't challenge status quo. In general, psychological safety always stands on 4 pillars. Number 1, inclusion safety. You feel safe to belong to the team. You are comfortable being present. You don't feel excluded. You feel wanted and appreciated. Number 2, learner safety. You are able to learn inside the team through asking questions. You're able to experiment, make and admit your mistakes, and ask others for help. Number 3, contributor safety. You feel safe to contribute your ideas without fear of getting embarrassed. It is already a more challenging state because bringing your own ideas requires a certain level of vulnerability both from you and from the rest of the team. Finally, 4th one is challenger safety. You feel that you can challenge others' ideas, including the ideas of your manager or people who have certain authority. And these 4 pillars are actually stages. One comes after another. Now, very important, what psychological safety is not, although we sometimes think it is. First, psychological safety is not a full absence of discomfort. In a psychologically safe team, you take risks, and it may come with certain discomfort or vulnerability. Number 2, psychological safety is not about always having an agreement or consensus. In fact, it actually encourages diverse perspectives and people challenging each other's ideas. Number 3, psychological safety doesn't mean lack of accountability, and all of the team members are still responsible for their actions and for their work. It's about creating an environment where you can take risks and admit mistakes without fear of severe punishment, but it doesn't mean avoiding accountability altogether. Finally, number 4, psychological safety is not about a full absence of conflicts. And conflicts can exist in a quite a psychologically safe environment. In fact, constructive conflicts can be a sign of a team where different opinions are actually valued and encouraged. The key, of course, is to manage conflicts respectfully and productively. Now, we all naturally understand why environment like that is important. First and foremost, because we as people would rather enjoy working in psychologically safe environments. But apart from that, it is important for a few other reasons. If you feel safe in a team, you collaborate more. It helps with problem solving and increases the quality of the end result. If you're willing to take more risks, it increases the creativity. And in an environment like that, we feel more engaged. So when we feel valued and when we feel listened, it increases our motivation. And here comes a controversial one, but bear with me. There is an opinion that psychological safety is actually not always necessary. For example, in crisis or in emergency situations. During immediate crisis, the focus shifts to an immediate decision-making and strict execution. The quick and efficient responses can be more important than a feeling of psychological safety. However, when the crisis has passed, it's important to restore a normal team dynamic for the team to recover and stay resilient. Also, it may not be that necessary for roles with a high autonomy or roles with a very routine and repetitive tasks. For the first, high autonomic roles, collaboration is generally not that important, and when you do only routine tasks, the creativity and collaboration is generally less relevant. If there is no need in collaboration, and if the level of uncertainty is rather low, having a psychologically safe team can be a lower priority, which doesn't negate the fact that I still think that it is very, very important. Now, why these unsafe environments are forming in the first place? Well, behavior of our leaders have a significant impact on the working culture. If you ask me, I think that this is one of the most important reasons actually. I believe in role models, and as someone who worked in companies with a very high power dynamics, I can tell you, if manager behaves a certain way, it is very hard to resist. Also, some companies are more authoritarian and they have a hierarchical structure, so everything is basically top down. Sometimes the performance pressure is so high and the expectations are so unreasonable that it doesn't allow the safety to form in the first place. Finally, the environment that is insensitive to cultural and personal differences can make people from diverse backgrounds feel unwelcomed. Basically, lack of inclusivity affects how safe we feel. Alright, here's the part where I'm supposed to tell you what to do about it. And first, I think it is very different if you're in the position of employee or a manager. Because if you're a manager, you have so much more power in affecting how your team actually feels. So go step by step. First, ensure that your team is having an inclusion safety, then learner safety, then contribution safety, and finally a challenger safety. But if you're an employee in such team, I feel like it's a little bit unfair for me to tell you, oh, just lead by example. Because I know that if you are in a team that is unsafe in the first place, it is so much harder to show your own vulnerability. So here are some things that I believe you can do if you're an employee in such teams. Number one, when you observe disruptive behavior, address it. If you see that someone is acting disrespectfully, for example, in your team, think about ways to address it. Even small things like you're either saying or showing in the way that you can do it that you disagree with that or it's actually not okay will already help. Secondly, promote inclusivity. So if you observe that someone in your team is not included in the conversation, you can help them be included. Make some effort to call it out and at least try to help them feel more heard. Number three is to give a constructive feedback. And of course, you're not responsible for the reaction of the person who receives the feedback. But what you can do is still initiate these interactions, initiate giving feedback, and slowly it can be also picked up by other team members. But wait a minute, what if you've never ever given a feedback to anyone in your life? And if that's the case, I created literally 5 minutes video with everything you need to know about feedback, and I will link it somewhere here or here. I'm having a channel for a year and a half, and I still cannot remember, is it this side or this side? Unprofessional. Finally, acknowledge contributions of other people. If there is someone who is sharing the ideas and offering the solutions, express gratitude and appreciation, even if it will be only from your side. I have my own strong opinions on leadership and how modern business should operate. And as someone who has been in psychologically unsafe working environment countless times, I do believe that this is a must skill for a manager. It is very easy to spill your irritation on others, and sometimes maybe it does lead to a certain short-term results. But I rarely saw people who would thrive in the environment like that. Usually you either get burned out, you lose self-confidence and general confidence in all the good in the world, or you decide that maybe this is the only way to go and you become a manager like that yourself. If you ask me, both options are not the best. Thank you so much for watching.